eclipse sightseeing yesterday?
Um, in Maryland, it was kind of like I didn't, but it wasn't as exciting, I don't think, as it was everywhere else. It didn't get like really dark here. It just looked like a cloudy day and
Mm,
everything. But, I still kind of like went out and looked up.
yeah,
But yeah.
yeah.
Did you?
I went out. I didn't have totality where here in St. Louis.
Okay.
So it was just like it just went a little bit dimmer,
Oh, okay.
just depending on where you
Hi.
are. Yes.
Yeah.
Is she on
Yeah.
the phone or?
Morning, Meg. Morning, Meg. Hi, Natasha.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello, hello. Hi, Julie.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much. How are you?
I am doing wonderful. You always have this nice smile on you.
Oh, thank you. So do you.
Thanks. Hi, Cassidy.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. What's the Dolly Parton song for today?
Let's see, it's Tuesday, which is also my favorite day of the week.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like the only thing that's appropriate this morning is 9 to 5.
Fair, fair.
How was your
What?
weekend?
Good, good. It was nice weather here in St. Louis, so we got a chance to go outside, go to Botanical Garden, and doing stuff outside.
Oh, awesome.
How come Tuesday is your favorite day?
Well, the short version is that it's really underrated. Monday and then every other day has something. But this
Okay.
is long before Taco Tuesday, which is not a real thing. But obviously, Tuesday's just like the underdog, and I feel like it has a lot of potential.
Okay, so Taco Tuesday is not a real thing for you, huh?
I mean, of course, Taco Tuesday is like every day if you want it to be, if you dream hard enough.
If you dream hard enough. I love it. Oh, Rachel, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
Good. I like the setup you have in the background.
Oh, thank you. You can't see it. I still have a few shelves to fill, so it's always nice if the camera doesn't look up there. You see the pretty stuff, which is nice.
Yeah, yeah. Hi, Ryan.
Hi, good morning, guys.
Good morning. How are you?
Great. I'm doing well. Everybody have fun watching the eclipse yesterday?
I was just asking that question. Yeah.
Yeah,
Did
we
you?
were in totality in Cleveland, Ohio, so it was pretty special. Pretty cool.
When did you get back?
I live in Cleveland, so
Okay.
stayed here the whole time. But yeah, it
I
was
was looking at your display and it says St. Louis. I'm like, oh, is he in St. Louis today?
oh no, all of us have the St. Louis tag on here, I believe.
Okay. So you had totality. That's super cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Hi, Tom.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. Uh, we were over in Jasper, Arkansas yesterday for Totality also. It was pretty cool.
Nice. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi.
How's your morning going?
It's going. It's going.
It's Tuesday. Hey. Hi, Kim. I saw you for a second.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what happened. My camera's not working,
Hmm. I can hear
but
you.
I know I can see all of you and hear you, so that's good. And I was there for a second. I'm in a funky hotel in California, so maybe that's it.
Where in California are you?
up in Sacramento area.
Okay. Nice. Morning, Sandra.
Good morning. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. All right, everybody. I have 9:05 here in the Midwest, and there are 3 quotes on the screen. So if you can see the quotes on the screen, go ahead and take a moment and look at these quotes. It ties to our topic of asking questions today. So take a moment to look at these quotes and then type in the chat. Which quote jumps out to you? Number 2 for Katie. One for Natasha. Cassie is 1, 2. So Cassie, would you come off mute? I know you're sipping on that cup of coffee. Would you come off mute? How come number 1 jumps out to you?
I think that is literally probably my biggest opportunity of growth that I need to focus on is asking the right questions. Because again, you can come with your own agenda, but obviously if their need is slightly different, and if you don't ask those questions and just present your agenda, you're not really gonna uncover some of the opportunities. So I think a lot of it is, asking the right questions and figuring out how to get them to open what their needs are.
Yeah, absolutely. And it ties to number 2 as well, as like when you ask the right question, you're kind of like uncovering that gold mines and
Correct.
right? We're gonna look at what we call like a questioning model to help us put things into perspective and asking different types of questions that's gonna get the clients to open up. Thanks, Cassie. Meg is 1 as well. Brittany is 1 as lots of ones resonate. We have many people writing 2 as well. Okay, so these quotes got us started. Let's jump into today with a quiz. And the quiz has to do with first this consultative selling framework. There are the 4 C's that we are focusing on. Let's type in the chat. Let's see if you can remember what the 4 C's stand for. What are the 4 C's? It's part of this consultative selling framework. What do you think the 4 C's are? Type it in the chat. If you know one of the C's, that's fine too. Just whatever C's you remember. What are the 4 C's? And go ahead and type it into the chat, everyone. Okay, Cassie says communication, absolutely. Yeah. Connect, We have 2 out of 4, right? Communicate, value to communication, and then connect. What do you think the other 2 are? Okay, so Brittany says cost, customer communication. Okay. Who else? Ten more seconds. Okay, customers, convenience, communication. We want to make it. What makes you say convenient, Tom?
It has to be accessible.
When you say accessible, in terms of like how easy it is for them to reach out to you, what do we mean by accessible?
No, when you're in working with a client or a partner, the idea that you're going to bring to them has to be it has to be functional.
Yeah, has to be functional, relevant, applicable to their world. Absolutely. Thanks, Tom. Nestle has collaborate. So here are the official 4 C's of this consultative selling framework. It's to connect. We want to connect with the client, the prospect, the vet, the clinic, and we want to communicate value of what we bring, how it's relevant to their world. So the past 2 sessions, the past 2 previous sessions, we've been focusing heavily on connecting and communicating value, right? We'll continue today with asking questions. So I am wondering which stage does questioning or asking questions fall into when we think about this consultative selling framework? Connect, communicate, confirm, collaborate. Where do you think questioning fall into? You can type in the chat or you can come off mute. What do you think questioning falls into?
I think it would fall into the connection
How come?
level. Well, if it's a new like clinic or a client that you've never met before, you would want to ask them questions like,
Right.
When did you first open, or why did you open, or where are you coming from, and just get to know them. So I think, yeah, connecting for sure is that first point of like building relationships and asking questions, about them and about their business.
Absolutely. Julie, you wrote collaborate. How come?
Just in that selling process, when you're collaborating or you're coming together to find value, to figure out, what deal could you potentially structure to best benefit their special needs, their office. That's all a collaborative process of working to either on a contract or a deal or how to benefit the office.
Right. Yeah. And that requires us to continue to check in. How does that
Right.
how does that work with you? Right. So we need to ask those questions. Absolutely. So Kim, you said all of them. The umbrella, all of them.
I just feel like if you were to break down each one, I think as we've focused so much on how important listening is, that asking questions throughout the whole process or any of the steps in the process really can solidify what their needs are or their concerns are, kind of whatever stage that you're in. You can determine if there's any different direction that you need to go.
Yep, absolutely. It's essentially a trick question. We can ask questions in every stage of this process, right? Kim mentioned listening. Not all listening is the same. There's different levels of listening that we'll be looking at today. Great discussion, everyone. So that's essentially what we'll be doing in session 3 today. Before we go into that, let's make sure that we can jot a memory of what we've learned up to this point. Repetition can help us learn, and it can definitely help us remember. So let's see if we can remember these ideas. I know I'm throwing you all a bunch of quizzes today. So what's going to happen is you're not going to have to do this alone. Haley is going to put us into groups. It can be groups of 3 or 4, Haley. It's up to you. And we're going to have 5 minutes just in our groups to discuss, hey, what do you think our answers are to these questions? And the good news is you'll be in a group with other people, so you don't have to figure this out all alone. Also, pull up the handouts that we've been sending out and see if you can find the answers in there. So again, we'll be in a breakout with a few other people, get everyone talking today with about 5 minutes and see if you can come up with the answers for these questions that you see on screen. Before we do that, who has a question? Awesome. So Haley, whenever you are ready, groups of 3 or 4, 5 minutes. So you're back in a little bit. Oh, Kim, your camera's working now.
I don't know how. It's magic.
All right, everybody, welcome back. I know, I forgot to share the screen with you for a little bit of time, so I apologize. All right, give us a hand raise. Who knows the answers to the first part? The first one, 3 parts of the agenda statement. Raise your hand if you know the answer. Yes, John.
I think it's why, what, and what else?
Yes, why, what, and what else? Good job, John. All right, next one. What is that thing that is a description of what drives us? Who knows the answer? Raise your hand. Virtual or physical hand? As long as I can see it. Yes, Rachel.
I can go. It's our sales purpose statement.
Yeah, sales purpose statement, right? I am unforgettable. I create an amazing experience with the clients, making them say, oh my God, I love working with Tree, right? That's my sales purpose statement. Thank you, Rachel. All right, who's next? 2 parts of a unique selling proposition. It should be USP instead of UPS. Unique selling proposition. Who knows the answer? Raise your hand. Yes, Kim.
The what and the why.
The what and the why, right? What is it that's unique about Nestle Purina, and why is that important to the client? Absolutely. Thank you, Kim. All right, next one. This one may be a little bit harder for all of us. What are the 4 buying perspectives? Raise your hand when you have an idea. You know the answer. What are the 4? Yes, Brian.
It's the financial buyer, executive buyer, user buyer, and technical buyer.
Yes, absolutely. So Ryan, out of curiosity, out of the clients that you've met like the past previous weeks, which buying perspective do you feel like you tend to run into?
Probably user buyer mostly.
User.
I think they're more concerned about the products, the usability of it, the consistency. That's, inventory and stuff like that. Can they get it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right, thanks, Ryan. All right, this last one, let's see who has an idea. Raise your hand. What's one Dale Carnegie principle to build trust? Oh, I see many hands going up. I love it. All right, let's hear one from Ashley. Ashley, that's what's one for you?
Smile.
Yes, smile. And how does that build trust, Ashley?
Well, I just think that it's welcoming and genuine, and I think people want to communicate and talk to those that look happy and not miserable. So that's probably a good starting point.
Yep, absolutely. You're doing a wonderful job of smiling. Julie does a great job of smiling. It makes both of you more approachable to talk to. It creates that connections and that builds trust. Absolutely. Thanks, Ashley. All right, Stephanie, I also saw your hand raised. What's one principle for you?
Become genuinely interested in people.
Yeah, become genuinely interested in other people. Absolutely. Thank you. All right, I think I also saw Cassie's hand. Which one is it for you?
Well, I was gonna jump to smile, but I'll throw out give honest, sincere appreciation.
Yeah, give honest, sincere appreciation. Absolutely. Principle number 2. And Julie, I also saw your hand raised. Which principle is it for you? Besides number 5, obviously.
Well, I like don't give to the criticism. Yes.
Yes, don't criticize, condemn, or complain.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Can you hear the answers to what we just talked about? Why, what, and what else? Part of our agenda statement. The sales purpose statement is what drives us to create that amazing experience for all the clients that we work with. And the unique selling proposition, the what and the why for a buying perspective. And here are the principles. Let's take a moment and think. Actually, Haley, let's can we put everyone back in the breakout and just have people discuss so the same breakout as they were before, Haley. So all you need to do is start the same breakout again And when you're in there, everyone, I'm going to share the screen again. Discuss, hey, what principles do you have the opportunity to try and with whom? Who did you try it with? And what was some results? It doesn't have to be something big, it could be some small results, right? Who did you try with? What did you do? And what was the result when you did that? Maybe you didn't criticize, condemn, or complain when a client was talking about certain things. And what was the impact, right? How did you talk in terms of the client's interest when you're having that sales conversation with them? Make it less about Nestle Purina, make it more about the clinic. And what was the results? So I'm going to share the screen. We'll go in there 5 minutes. Who has a question? Okay, same breakout, same people, Haley, same time. Hi, Dwayne. Welcome back, everybody. All right, let's hear a few thoughts. Let's go to a few rooms here. Let's go to room 5. Ashley, Dwayne, Julie, and Natasha. What did we discuss?
We discussed a couple of different things.
Yeah. Okay.
I provided an example of just being more genuinely interested to get them talking. Sometimes it's a little bit more challenging in a large group, but I made sure to kind of dedicate some time into my lunch and learn just for them to talk about like themselves, like who they are, what they do at the clinic.
Okay.
And it helped uncover that a lot of them feed Purina Pro Plan, and it's a Royal Canin clinic. So getting the vet to see that these people are comfortable with Purina.
Nice. And how did you facilitate that? Like, is that more like the beginning of your lunch and learn, or just like naturally throughout the session? How do you facilitate that?
So I usually will introduce myself and then give them a little background on me. Just where I went to school, how I got to Nestle, and then I have like pictures up of my family and my kids holding pets. So it provides them like a little bit of a framework of, this is how I introduced myself. And then I'll open up and say, I want to get to know you all more. Can you please share with me like your name, what you do at the clinic? And then,
Yeah. Nice. So you give a little and allow them to open up a little bit more. Nice. Thank you. All right, let me go to another group. Let's go to Brittany, Eric, Cassidy, and John's group. What did you all discuss?
Sorry, I was on mute. We discussed we discussed using people's names, remembering people's names and trying to get into the groove of repeating their names back to them.
Yeah.
And then we also discussed being genuinely interested in people and asking about themselves and their personal lives and that sort of thing.
How come using names came up?
Because that was a big thing for me because I always forget everyone's name. And so I made that a point after our last session to really hone in on that and try to make better communication with these people by using their name.
Nice. All right. Good job, Brittany. All right, let's give it up for Brittany and Natasha, everybody, for contributing their ideas today. Way to go. All right. So we review what we've learned the past 2 sessions. Let's jump into what we'll be covering today. Here are the things, the items we'll be covering today. So it goes to elevating our questioning skills. And we'll be looking at why we should be asking more questions. Also has to do with the liking principle, which we will explain. We'll look at the questioning model to help us ask more elevated questions, and it ties to the different interest areas. This is different than the different buying perspective. With different types of questions, there's questions that it's more powerful than other. There are different levels of listening that ties to us having that meaningful conversations with a client. And then we've covered the agenda statement. Now we're going to look at what a summary statement looks like. Before we go further, who has a question about what we'll be covering today? Awesome. As we continue with our session, if you have any questions, type in chat, raise your hand, and we can discuss what questions you have. The overarching theme for us today is, again, about how we continue to provide value to our clients, focusing on the outcomes and how we can help them solve their needs, right? When we put these into in these phrases of what we'll be covering, we'll collaborate, ask more strategic questions, elevating the dialogue, and again, going back to the summary statements of how we can tie it up at the end. These are the 4 key mistakes that we discussed last sessions. 1 is no prepared agenda, talking too much. Number 3, which we will hone in today, which is not asking questions that generates maximum results. And number 4, inability to communicate unique selling propositions. We have covered all 4 of these. Today, we're focusing on number 3, which is not asking questions that generate maximum results. I was on a call with a client regarding the topic of adapting to change. And when we hopped on the call, I say, let's zoom out and help me understand first about how this session that we're going to be doing fits into the larger goal of the leadership development program that you're doing. How does this meet the business strategy? They're in the HVAC industry. And I asked him what's going on with the HVAC market. And he said they're shifting from natural gas to moving into cleaner energy, and what he called a decarbonization process at the end. And when we are about to close the call, he says, I really appreciate you asking all these questions, taking an interest in learning about my world. He even says that the questions that I asked him help him even reflect on, why of the program and how it fits into the business in general. And that's what we have the opportunity to do today, is to focus more on asking insightful questions that encourage our clients to think, and in terms create that ego want for them to want to change, for them to want to switch to Nestle Purina. So let's assess ourselves on a rating. How well do you ask questions? Let's type it in the chat. How do you think you ask questions? Where are you on this scale? Okay, so Sandra is okay, Kim is okay. So we see a lot of okays. Depends on the day. Okay, maybe on Tuesday you ask better questions, right, Cassidy? Because it's your favorite day of the week. Yeah. Okay. Some of us says pretty well. Carla's like awful. Okay. Let's test it. I have a little game for everyone. And the little game is, and they do this improv. And it's about having a conversations using questions only. Here is an example of what that looks like. Let me play this video for everyone. Okay. The cat or dog, that's our topic. But let's watch the video of what it's like to have a conversation with questions only. So give me a thumbs up when you can hear the sound.
Let's get right into it. We've got game number 1. Guys, this game is called Questions, and you are all playing this game. All right. Players will act in a given scenario 2 at a time, but may only converse in the form of a question. If they speak in a statement or take longer than 2 to 3 seconds to respond, you will get buzzed and you will have to leave the scene. That's right. A new player joins in and starts a new scene. All right, so let's go ahead and start with Kelly and Vincent to start the game. Yeah! Your scenario, friends, is that you are at the airport.
How much longer till our flight?
Didn't they say like 35 hours?
Does this airline ever do anything right?
Why did we get the cheaper one?
Why are you the cheapo?
Why do you tight our budget so much?
How do you think we're going to go on trips like this without the budget?
I just want nice pants.
Did you see how expensive the food is at the airport?
Have you seen anything as outrageous?
What airline is this?
Who even knows? That's not a question. Oh yeah, it kind of is.
That's a question.
Okay.
Was it
Would you like some peanuts, sir? Are those allergy free?
All right, so that gives us an idea of what we'll be doing. So in a moment, Haley is going to drop us into a breakout. Haley let's just do pairs if you can. If not, you can do groups of 3. Let's stick with pairs. And we're gonna do the same thing, just like these people are doing in this video. We're going to attempt to have a conversations using questions only. And the topic is cat or dog. Okay, so we're going to have a conversation revolving, do we prefer cat or do we prefer dog? And the only way we're going to have that conversation is by asking our partners questions instead of using statements. And just keep track of how long you can go on before you say a statement. Okay, so we're gonna let's do 3 minutes. Haley, is that okay? 3 minutes. It's just a quick one. When you go in there, have a conversation on the topic of cat or dog and see how far you can go before somebody accidentally say a statement instead of sticking with questions. That's all you'll be doing in your breakout. Who has a question? Who is ready to go into the breakout? Okay. All right. Haley, let's do 3 minutes. Let's do pairs. John and Katie, welcome back.
Thank you.
Was that easy or hard for you?
Hard.
It was hard? Yeah.
Way harder than we thought.
I know. All right, everybody is back. All right, so I was talking to John, Katie before everyone came back, and they said it was hard. So let's type in the chat. Was it easy? Was it hard for you? Doing that exercise, trying to have a conversation with questions only. Yeah, not easy. It's not easy. All right, let's see if we can have a redo. Let's get 2 people to come off of mute and see if they can talk about this, demonstrate in front of everybody. Who would be willing to try? We'll keep the same topic, dog or cat. Let's get 2 people.
I'll do it.
Okay, so who would like to have a conversation with Brittany in questions only? Don't miss this opportunity, everyone. Once in a lifetime. Brittany. Who would you like to have a conversation with?
Let's pick somebody from my team. Ryan.
Okay, Ryan. All right, you have 2 minutes for the 2 of you to have a conversation just with questions on the topic of cat or dog and see how far we can go. Are you 2 ready?
Let's go, Britt. Come on.
All right, ready, set, go.
Do you have a dog or a cat?
What makes you think I have a cat?
That's a good one. because I know you have a dog.
Oh, okay. Oh,
I messed up.
okay.
Um,
Okay. Switch out. All right. Ryan and Kim. All right, pick it back up, Kim, where Brittany left off.
Oh, okay. Well, he kind of stumped us on that one a little bit.
I know. Yeah, more time.
Why wouldn't you have a cat?
Aren't our dogs better?
What would make a dog better?
All right, Ryan, time's up for you. All right, Kim and Julie. Keep the conversation going. Cat or dog?
Why would you think a dog would be better? I don't know. Wait a minute, I can't remember the conversation.
Aren't
No, that's
cats
good.
the most amazing pet ever?
I don't know, but I thought maybe you could tell me more about your cat. Or no, I don't know. That's terrible.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all right. All right, let's give it up for everybody who tried. It's hard. It's hard to have
So hard.
in all questions, right? So that got us thinking about asking questions. There's a few reasons why people don't ask questions. One has to do with egocentrical, right? We're eager to impress other people with our thoughts, our stories, our ideas. When we talk, it feels good to be able to talk. Our brain actually releases chemicals, feel-good chemicals when we get the chance to talk. There's us being apathetic, and this has to do with like, maybe I just don't care enough to ask people questions. I just want to talk about myself. I don't care about the other person, so I don't ask questions. Number three is maybe I'm overconfident. I think I already know. Walking into this clinic, I already know what they need. So why should I ask them questions? I already know what they need. Of course, they want Nestle Purina, right? I did my research. And then number four, well, maybe I don't want to ask the wrong questions and look stupid in front of the client. So there's four main reasons. Let's type in the chat. What other reasons do you think contribute to us not asking more questions? What other reasons can you think of? Yeah, maybe I don't have time to ask them, right? Maybe I'm not prepared. So it's thinking it's rude to ask questions. What do you mean by that, Marla? So
Probably like,
Cassie
why you worried about my dog so much? You kind of sound weird asking about my 50 questions about my dog.
Oh yeah, like with the exercise earlier, you mean?
Yeah, just kind of an example with the exercise is like, why you so, maybe you're thinking you're prying too much, I think, is what she was getting.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for elaborating on that, John. Cassie said, worry about taking up too much time. Can you come off mute, Cassie, and elaborate on that?
Yeah, I feel like with the industry that we're in, of course, everybody, it seems like they're always short-staffed. If we have meetings, obviously you're trying to cram in what the point is or what your agenda is or what the actual focus, I guess, is. And I feel like sometimes, I don't want to take up too much of their time and trying to be as efficient as possible with how busy they are and running in separate directions. Sometimes, yeah, I feel like I just want to be like, here's all the important stuff. And it's like, I don't take time to ask the questions.
Yeah. Because you're trying to be respectful of their time.
Yeah, exactly. Respectful of their time. So I just try to hurry, which that's the thing that I eliminate in my rush.
Yeah. We eliminate asking those questions, right? There are a few reasons for us to focus more on asking those questions. Here are three. First one is when we ask questions, the vet, the clinic, the prospects persuades themselves into switching over to us. There's this book called The New Model of Selling by Jeremy Miner. And he gave a pro tip. He says, remember not to tell your potential customers about what you know and what you have. Instead, ask questions. And he says, when we ask questions, we uncover and explore what they know about the subject first. And then if we show our cards right away, if we show everything about Nestle Purina to the prospect, we're likely to lose, in his opinion. Because if we do, we may be the one who ends up owning the problem and the solution. His point is that we want the client, the vet, the clinic to own the problem themselves, not us owning that problem. He says that when we ask questions, just watch what happens when the prospects, the clinics, the vets start listening to themselves, answering our questions, and they start to process the information internally as they're talking. And as they unconsciously and subconsciously internalize what they're saying to us, their answers will help them examine their own challenges on their own beliefs as to why they are in this present situation. They may know that they're short-staffed. They may know they're running tight on time. But when we're not asking those questions, they're not having that internal dialogue because they're so busy running around. So it doesn't create that want to change. When we look at these 4 things that he suggests, what resonates? How come number 1 resonates, Kim?
I think just because then it can tell you the direction that you need to go with the conversation.
Okay. So when we know which directions, we can be more targeted, and that's going to help save time in general as well, right? If we're pressed on time. What else? What else resonates? Sandra's number 4. How come number 4, Sandra?
This one stood out to me because it's kind of like the example you use with the HVAC situation, where at the end, because of the questions you asked, he started reflecting on his own business. So he kind of looked at it in that perspective. So right here, they're internalizing, they're speaking, then sometimes they're kind of having a conversation with themselves. So that kind of stood out to me because of that reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And he paused and he says, I haven't thought of that before. And it allows him to think deeper as to why he's doing this. So it makes him more excited to want to incorporate it. And that gets us to our second point is when we ask the right questions, it allows the prospect to be excited about wanting to change, because they're going to ask themselves, why do I put off switching? They might say, why do I keep working with this current company instead of Nestle Purina? Right? Or they might say, maybe I should look at what this person is saying because they get me thinking now. Or they might be saying, why do I keep doing what I'm doing and hoping to get a different results? All these questions, all these things we can get the client thinking about when we slow down and ask them questions. That's going to allow them to reflect, right? Dale Carnegie says the only way to get someone to want to do something is make them want to do it. And by asking questions, we show them clarity on where they are and where they want to be. That's part of their questioning models, which we'll get to in a little bit. There's also the third reason. It's called the liking principle. Type yes or give thumbs up if you've heard of this before. The liking principle. Type no if you haven't heard of it before. That's okay. Okay, I see heads shaking. So the liking principle, this comes from Harvard. And the liking principle states that we like people who are similar to us, who pays us compliments and who cooperate with us towards mutual goals. This is the liking principle. If you like the same things that I do, I like you. The liking principle. So Harvard did this study on conversations and different modes of communication. And they isolated the question asking piece of the conversation, And they found a robust and consistent relationship between question asking and liking. People who ask questions are better liked by their conversation partners. People who ask more questions are better liked by their conversations partner. They did this with face-to-face speed dating. So they found that the speed daters who ask more questions during the dates are more likely to elicit agreement for second dates from the partners, which indicates liking, right? If I agree to a second date, that means I at least like you enough to want to see you again. And that correlated significantly to asking questions. So asking questions can enhance the liking principle. It makes the prospects want to have that conversation with us. Liking principle. Besides those 3 reasons, why else should we ask more questions, in your opinion? Why else should we ask more questions? You can come off mute.
It just makes us sound more engaged. Like we're actually there because we want to be and we want to learn more about the practice.
Shows genuine interest. Absolutely. What else?
It helps further the relationships and make it stronger.
Right? And it ties to the liking principle, makes people feel heard and understood. So let's see here. I'm sure you all have favorite questions that you ask your clients. I'm sure you have that one questions that you like to throw out to make them think, to make them agree to what you're trying to tell them. So let's grab our annotate tool, everybody. So again, we've done this in previous sessions. If you go up to the top of your screen and click on view options and click annotate. That's going to allow you to write. So just occupy a box on the screen here. So make sure we have room for everyone. So access your annotate tool, use the text tool, and then start typing on the screen in one of those boxes. What's your favorite sales question to ask your client? Is the annotate tool working for everyone? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay, thank you, Cassie. Just want to make sure it's working. Okay, what do you like about your current diet? Let's use our text tool. Did you think you would talk about poop so much in your life? Man, that is one good question. How long have you been in the industry? Why do you choose this profession? Okay, nice. What motivates you for change? Ooh. Is there anything I can do to help? What do you look for in a diet supplement? Okay. What do you currently feed? Okay, let's take another 10 seconds. What kind of things are clients coming to you about? Okay. Let me see if I can change the color of the box so we can see it easier. I also don't want to mess up your text. I don't want to erase your text. Okay. All right, so let's wrap up typing, everyone. think we got a really great start here. There are 4 categories that we can classify these in. And that ties with our questioning model. So here's what we're gonna do. It's 10:06 my time. Let's take let's do an 8-minute break. When we come back, we'll classify these questions and we'll examine the questioning model. So let's take an 8-minute break. So be 14, let's do 15. 15 after the hour. Let's do a 9-minute break. When we'll come back, we'll categorize these together. Let's take a break. You got a chance. Thank you, Haley. Get up, stretch your feet, use the restroom, more coffee, refill. While everyone was at break, I categorized these into 4 different buckets. As you can see in the red boxes, they are as is, should be, change / bearer, and payout. Those are different types of questions. So as is question has to do with what is currently happening, right? As is, what is currently happening. And should be means where do they want to go? What should be happening that's not happening? What is the desirable future state? And change barrier questions are questions that's asking like, what's in the way? What's getting in the way of you wanting where you want to be? What's preventing you from getting to that should be state? And then the payout is like, if you get to that state where you want to be with your clinic, what's in it for, what's the payout? What's the return on investment? What's the benefit for you, for your team? So there's 4 different buckets: as is, should be, change, and payout. I categorize them. First of all, is there any specific questions that you would contest? As in like, hey, Tree, can you move this to a different category? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Is there one you should say, hey, I think we should put it in this bucket instead of the other one? Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Now, what do we notice when we look at this? What do you notice about these questions that we ask? You can come off mute. Cassidy, I see that you're already off mute. What do you notice?
First off, I think it's pretty genius just to think about this as a relationship grows, or maybe it's in stages with a clinic, because they're not always the same. At least in my territory, they're all very different standalones. And before I even walk in, they all have different goals. And then as I grow the relationship or get to know them, they have various stages and changes. So you could bucket that in your mind as, okay, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, and it's not static. It could go different ways also.
Okay, so different stages. Okay, who else has a thought looking at this?
I just put there's a lot in the first section there. A lot of questions seem to fall in that category.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think that is, John? There's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably one of the easier questions to get the conversation started, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Get the conversation started. Also, it has to do with like, we're not aware of the different types of questions that we can ask. Right? What's the importance of asking should be question? As he's like, what do you look for? Tell me about looking for the value in asking those questions. What's the value for us?
I'd say it's just to understand where their head's at and where they see the clinic going, what direction they're going, so we can align.
Yeah. Because that's where they are. Where is it that they want to be? Right. And then we can position our products to help with that. Thanks, Eric. Eric, choose the next. No, I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not going to be mean to you. What's the value in asking change barrier questions? Like, what challenges do you have? If you can make a change, what would they be? What's the value in asking those questions?
Maybe just painting a picture of what
Mm-hmm.
you could assist them with to make that change to get them where they want to be.
Absolutely. This is where you are right now. This is where you want to be. What's getting in your way, right? So how can I deal with that?
How can I?
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Meg. What about payout? What would be a value of asking payout questions?
It's talking about outcomes, which is what they were kind of wanting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about last sessions, like outcome versus the product that we sell, like what they buy versus what we sell, right? When we focus more on outcomes, it's more motivating for them to want to change, for them to want to partner with us. Now, before I clear this and go to the next screen, if you see questions on here that you like, go ahead and write them. If you see questions on here that you could ask a client next time, go ahead and write them. You saw one that you found valuable, go ahead and write it down. I'm going to give everyone 30 seconds. Maybe there's one you're like, oh, I haven't thought of asking that before. Maybe I should try. Okay. So as I said, these are the as is, should be, change, and payout. They're part of this questioning model. And so with the payout, let me explain it a little bit more. The payout is like, what is the benefit? It could be the benefit for the clinic. It could also be the benefit for the person you're talking to, right? Maybe a personal benefit for them is like, if we're able to partner with Nestle Purina, it's going to save me more time. It's going to make me look good in front of the team, in front of my client. That's like a personal reason for me to want to switch over, right? So asking those payout questions, not only what's in it for the clinic, it's also what's in it for the person on the other side that you are talking to. What's going to be the good stuff that happens when we switch over, when we make that change, when we get to that should be stage. There are additional questions relevant to our work at Nestle Purina from other participants from the previous program. Let's see if you can find any value in any of these questions. One, as is. Process, what's your process? What's your current protocol? What do you look for when you're choosing food for your pets, right? What does your food storage area look like? As I'm going through this, if you see questions that you like, go ahead and write them. Should be is asking about what's the ideal partnership? What are your expectations, even when you're using this product? How would your day-to-day be improved? I would put that in the payout question too. What's your future plans for your clinic? Like what should it be? How much profit would you make from the diet would you like to make, right? Asking that desirable state. How much profit would you like to make from diet or supplement sales? And then the change questions would be, which diets would you like to transition from right now? And the payout, there's more examples for payout questions here. There's one that I like is the one, what would you do with the extra profits? If you keep all diet sales in-house, what would you do with the extra profits? What would you do with all your time back, right? So payout could be payout in profits, payout in time, and could be payout in terms of experience when we use Nestle Purina. So those are the 4 types of questions that ties to the questioning model. Who has a question, comments regarding these? Okay, let's type in the chat and make sure you close out your annotate tool. Which type of questions should you ask more? When we look at the list, the buckets earlier, they heavily fall into the as is questions. Which type of questions should you ask more? Is it as is? It should be? Is it change? Is it barrier? Is it payout? What is it? Okay, for Julie, it's payout. Maybe I should ask more payout questions. Who else? Should be, right? What's the future plans for your clinic? Where are you heading? Change barrier, okay? Megan is as is, nice. Should be. Okay. So let's spend a little bit more time with these 4 types of questions. What's going to happen is Haley is going to put us in another breakout. Haley, let's just do 3 or 4 people. You can mix it up, randomize it. And before we do that, we're going to give everyone a little bit of time to come up with 1 question per bucket. You can use these questions or you can come up with your own. And write down 1 question per bucket. As like, when it comes to as is questions, this is the kind of questions that I plan to ask my client in the future, as is. And then this is the type of questions for should be that I want to ask in the future. This is the type of change questions that I want to ask. And this is the payout questions that I want to ask. You can write this down on, a piece of paper, pen and paper, or you can pull up the Word doc. Everyone, we're gonna give you a few minutes to write down 1 question per question type. As is, should be, change, barrier, and payout. When we're done with that, we're gonna go into a breakout. So at this time, take a moment to write. Once you are done, please type done in the chat. What would be a question you can ask for each of these types of questions? Once you're done, type done in the chat. If you have a question, feel free to raise your hand. Good job, Kim. You just need at least one question per category. Once you're done, type done in the chat. Thank you, Denise. Good job, Megan. When you're done, be prepared to discuss these questions when you're in the breakout. Good job, Marcus. Marcus, how are you today, my friend?
Doing good. How are you doing?
Good. Good.
I finally figured out how to get Zoom on my computer. It's been
Okay.
it's been an event, so we're good to go now, though. We should be.
Awesome. Do you have the application on your computer?
No, I don't. I think that's why that was the issue. I was trying to go through the invite, and
Yeah.
it kept just it's been kicking me out. So I went through something different this time, and it got me on. So
Okay.
we should
Well,
be good. We should be good to go now.
I'm glad you got it figured out, Marcus. I'm glad you're here with us. All right, everybody, let's take in 10 seconds. Finish up. Haley, how are we doing with the breakouts?
We are all ready. I just need to know how long you want them in them.
Okay, Haley, are we doing, how many people do you have, roughly?
Currently at groups of 3.
Groups of 3. Okay. Let's do 9 minutes, allowing people time to talk, catch up. When you're in there for 9 minutes, take turn and let your partners know, like, hey, what are the questions that you plan to ask? If you're stuck, ask your peers, what are suggestions? So take turns, see if you can learn something from your peers when you're in the breakout. Type of questions I want to ask when it comes to where they are, where they want to be, what's getting in the way, what's the outcome the payout are looking for. And if you got done early, discuss who are the clients that you want to ask these with. Okay, so what are the questions you wrote down? And if you're done early, who are the clients you want to ask these questions with? Who has the question before we do all of that? You are so smart. You're also on top of things. So let's do 9 minutes. We'll see you all back in a little bit. All right, everybody, how was the breakout? Okay, Katie's nodding. Kim gave a thumbs up. Okay. Let's hear a few breakouts. Let's hear from Cassie, Natasha, and Sandra. What did you discuss?
I could go. Okay, I could go. So we all kind of spoke a little bit of like what we agree with and what we don't. I think a lot of these questions are situational. And one thing that we discuss is sometimes like with these questions, like you have to, like, for example, the first one that we discussed was like, what do you look for in choosing a food, or what do you like about hills or rural Canaan? Sometimes these like questions, sometimes they could be very like, well, I need them to work. And then it's like, you really have to be able to kind of pivot from there. Just because they work and they're happy with them, you have to be able to kind of bounce back and kind of recover from that. So when asking, this isn't all like as this should be, all these different questions, you have to be able to ask questions where like it's in your favor. And if it's not in your favor, the answer is kind of like how to pivot from that as well. So I think it's just situational. It really depends on who you're speaking to in regards to the questions you're gonna ask, and also it's unique to each situation. And it really depends on the flow of the conversation, what your next question is gonna be from your opening question.
Yeah, thank you. And you brought up an aspect which is like the mindset of a salesperson, right? Like what's the mindset that we should have when we're engaging with clients? Because everyone is different. So sometimes they might throw an answer that just, catch you off guard, that like they didn't want to elaborate and they just want to shut you down. Like how do you maintain your coolness when you're trying to interact with them, right? Like having that mindset is important. It's like, okay, so yeah, I understand we want it to work, right? Like what specifically is important for you, right? So there's a certain point where we have to stay calm and confident ourselves as a salesperson. And the mindset is like, I'm here to understand what you need, right? So I want more information because I'm genuinely interested. Thanks for bringing that up, Sandra. All right, let's hear from another group. Let's hear from Dwayne, Julie, and Ryan. What did you discuss?
It was interesting. Ryan and I had very similar questions as far as the as is should be change and payout pertaining to us. And then Dwayne came in and he had excellent questions pertaining to distribution and how he would, utilize those types of questions. And we just had a really good discussion around partnering and, how these questions can help us, further understand, where we want to go.
Yeah. What is the question about distribution?
Well, just Dwayne deals with the distribution partnerships in his position. And so he was talking about his questions that it just directly translated, the types of questions, and how he would utilize those in his role. But I found that interesting as far as, and very helpful, insightful to that this can be used virtually in anything.
Nice. All right. Thank you, Julie. Let's hear from Marcus, Rachel, or Stephanie.
Hi, okay, I will take this one. We really just went into the specifics of our questions and really just kind of discussing them. I think we were all really along the same lines. I can be transparent and say I went into it not really having a payout question. So even really dissecting the questions down more and really the different buckets and the questions that fall into them is really what we talked about. And I can go through some of the ones that we discussed as well. So as is, and these were mine as well, just to let you know. But as is, I put when it comes to choosing nutrition for your clinic, what are some of the most important nutritional components that you look for? Should be what are your future goals when it comes to nutrition playing a role in your clinic? Change barriers, and these are all very generic as well. Obviously, I think going from different groups and hearing it, getting more in the specifics after having these conversations and things, but the change barriers, what would it take for you to transition from Hills or Royal Canin to Purina's therapeutic diets and supplements? And then payout, how will the extra profit from Vet Direct impact your clinic?
Yeah, so profits, nutrition, what role does this play? What would it take? And profit. Thank you, Rachel. Those are those insightful questions to have conversations with. Who here heard, like, could be for everyone here in the main room, who here heard some great questions, or they have some great questions that they want to share with the group? Raise your hand if you heard a great question in your breakout, or you have one that you would love for everyone to know so they can incorporate. This is your opportunity to discuss your insights. Come off mute. Yes, Sandra.
The one that I saw up was it was under the should be, but is how could your day-to-day be improved? And I like this one just because I think in the back of my head, that's my goal when I'm going in there in regards to the hospital setting and nutrition. Like, what could I do to kind of simplify that process for you? So I really like that just because I think it's something like you have their best interest at heart and in mind. So that's one that it really stood out to me because I think that's something that I naturally do, but I really just like that question itself.
Yeah, yeah. And like the day to day is what's real for them, right? So how could I improve your day to day? That's relevant to me. Yes, I would love to talk to you about it. Nice. Who else? What other questions should we know? Should we hear from you? Could be something you came up with or something you heard in your breakout. Raise your hand, come off mute.
Guess I got Tom came up. We're talking about what would you do with the question in the last, what is the last category? Payout. What would you do with profits you're keeping from keeping foods in-house? And he was talking about a clinic that he kind of used that on, but they were able to show that they could hire a new employee from just moving to a vet direct. I don't know if that sounds about right, Tom.
Yeah. It was a combination of a swap and figuring out a percentage of their customers that they were going to be able to switch over to Vet Direct. And one of their employees put pen to paper and figured out that they would make enough money to hire another employee by doing it.
Wow, by switching to Vet Direct. I mean, that is one compelling reason to switch, right? It's like you can hire.
But it was a big clinic, Granny. But yeah, the employee who did this kind of came out of nowhere with it. She was peripheral to the whole conversation, and then it locked it. The whole conversation was done.
Wow, it's just that one question can change the whole conversation. What is the question again, Tom?
It was what would you do with more money? Assuming that this initiative is going to move forward and it's going to be profitable, what would you do with this? And right now, it's a huge issue in this industry, is not having enough people on the floor.
Yes. Yeah. So if you haven't been asking that question, see if you can incorporate that into your next conversation with your client and see how they respond, right? What would you do with more money? What would you do with more profit for your clinic? All right, everyone, let's type in the chat. Who is the client that you could be more intentional, or a prospect that you can be more intentional about asking these types of questions and not be so stuck with one type, but like incorporating this questioning model? Who is someone that comes to mind as we're talking about these types of questions? Let's type that in the chat. Who's it for you? Could be a prospect, could be a client that you're already working with and you want to enlarge the relationship. Who is it for you? Okay. So 2 new vet practices. Oh, with your top clients. VIP guest. Nice. Yeah, you got a shout out there, Marcus, from Tom about VIP guest. Awesome. So keep these in mind as we move forward and how you can incorporate them into your conversations. These questions, the reason we ask those type of questions as is, should be, bear, change, and payouts, because it targets different interest area. These are not the same as the different buying types. These are 4 interest area. And imagine that we have 4 different pockets where we can put information that we receive from a client, or when we receive the information that we asked a vet, a clinic. We can put the answers that we receive into these different buckets. Are they talking about the desires that they want? Okay, so it's in that bucket, right? And this ties to when we ask about the payout or the should be questions, we can put it in the outcomes bucket. when we ask about the change barrier questions, we can put it in the challenge bucket, or it could be where they are right now that's causing a problem. We could put that into the change bucket. What's preventing them from changing? Right? It could be mindset, it could be staff, whatever it is, could be money. Personal motive has to do with what's in it for this specific, could be this practice manager, this vet, what's in it for them? When you're asking all those questions, what's in it for this person, particularly for them to want to change, for them to want to switch over, right? If we're talking about that employee who just came out of the blue, says like, we could hire somebody, maybe a personal motive for them is less work. When we're able to use the profit after switching to Vet Direct to hire somebody else, it's going to make a world difference for that person, because now it's less of the half of the workload instead of doing the 2 people job. So personal motive is what's personal to that person that you're talking to. And again, we understand the buying criteria, right? What does it take for them to switch over? What are they looking for? We know buying criteria. We typically don't focus a lot on the personal motive, and we could pay more attention to the outcomes desired and the challenges to the change. Let's one another way for us to think about these 4 buckets is when we think about going to the gym, like buying a gym membership. Type yes in the chat if you currently have a gym membership. I currently have one. It's okay if you don't have one right now. Maybe you have a home gym, or maybe you run outside. It's okay if you don't have a gym membership. When we think about a gym membership, what are some buying criteria? Like, what are some absolutes that we need to have when it comes to a gym? Or like, what are some criteria that you look for in a gym? For me, is proximity to where I live. I want to be able to walk there. But that's a buying criteria. It's close by, availability. So some of us want to do like group classes, which is awesome. Yep, equipment. I switched from my older gym, my previous gym, to my current one because it doesn't have all the equipments that I'm looking for. Absolutely. So when we think about the outcome desired, what are the outcomes that we want for having a gym? Let's type that in the chat. What are the outcomes that we desire when we buy a gym membership? Better health, better fitness. What else? Convenience. Yeah. This could be part of our buying criteria. Could be, I desire to have something quick that I can go to and do. Gains. Yeah. I have more muscle mass. So when it comes to us getting a gym membership, what challenges can get in the way of us switching or getting a new membership? What are some challenges for us to make that change? Yeah, could be cost. Yeah, my rates increase every year. Availability, so maybe I don't have a gym nearby where I currently live. Maybe right now is not the right time for me to make that change. Yeah, the time cost and availability seems to be the main one. Now, when it comes to the gym, there's a personal motive. Personal motive is different than outcomes. Personal motive is more personal, more of that emotional aspect. What could be some of that personal motive, like that deeper drive? Like for me, I'm going on vacation. I want to look good when I'm on that beach. That's like some deeper personal motive. Like what else can you think of when it comes to a gym membership that's like deeply personal for someone? That's not just like, oh, better health, better well-being, better fitness. Like what's that deeper drive? Yeah, maybe I just got back from an injury. Now I want to get stronger again. Maybe it's the mental aspects, clearing my mind. Oh, Kim's, I want to be a role model to my kids, right? It's not just for my health. I want to be seen as that role model. Yeah, I'm training for a marathon, so I want to get that personal best. When we talk to a client, we understand the outcomes that they want and also that personal motive, they are excited about switching because it's not only impacting the clinic, it's impacting them personally. So when we ask those questions, it can target that personal drive, right, of why they should switch. What's our reaction to these interest areas? See some head nodding. What's your reaction? They're great, Tree. They're so interesting to think about, Tree. What's your reaction? Also, I don't have a problem with being silent. So we just wait for someone to come off mute or type in the chat.
I think again that these are all areas where we need to be focused on trying to figure out how to ask the questions that uncover all of these things so that we can deliver the results that we need to increase the business. I mean, it's all going into the same thing, whereas these are the areas that we need to expand upon so that we can be more strategic.
Yes. Yes. And why is it important for us to be more strategic, Julie?
Because we have, you know, I mean, we want to, obviously, at the end of the day, we want to make our numbers and we want to impact and have good relationships with these offices. And we want to be helpful and, you know, make pets' lives better and their owners better and all the good things. But, you know, I mean, we have quotas to get to and things to do. And so we have to be strategic about where we can do that.
Yes, absolutely. There's also this idea of value versus utility. Value versus utility. And what it means is when a clinic sees us as a value partner, they're less likely to want to switch. If they just see us as a vendor, there's low utility cost to switching. I can find another vendor. I can easily switch over. But when they see it as a value partner, a trusted partner, they're less likely to switch because when they make the switch, they're losing out more than just a vendor. They're losing out the value, the connection, the trust, what we bring to that relationship. When we target these interest areas, they feel heard, they feel understood, they feel connected to us. We increase the liking principle. We increase our value in their head. So that's increased the cost of switching. So when we do a better job of asking questions, we increase our value and we reduce the utility aspect of how they see us. We've earned a break, a lunch break. I'm going to give you more time. Before we do that, Haley's going to drop us into another breakout. Haley, can you just do pairs this time? Just randomize pair. And let's do 4 minutes. And we're going to be in that breakout. And we're going to discuss what's one insight that you gain from us talking about the questioning model and the interest areas. What's one insight for you? When we come back, we'll hear a few insights, and then we will be able to go to lunch. So who has a question before we do that? What's just one insight you gain? Haley, how are we doing with breakouts?
We are good to go.
Awesome. Thank you. Whenever you're ready, Haley. Here they come back. All right, Tom, Katie, and Carla, what's one insight you all talked about?
I liked Katie's a lot. I mean, Tom and Katie both had great things to say. And one of the things was about the preparation on Mondays. You really need to spend time preparing your questions and understanding how you want to lead your conversation before you go into these clinics. It's pretty deep. There's a lot to learn. Katie, Tom, what else you guys want to add?
No, I would agree with that. My take on this was that this questioning model in here appeared to be kind of fairly deep in an already existing conversation. So you had to be what Katie was saying, having to be prepared for earlier in the week to know what direction you wanted to go as you got into the conversation.
Okay, sounds like this is helpful in terms of us prepping to, because Dale Carnegie says only the prepared gets to be confident, right? So when we are better prepared, we're more confident. Anything else from Carla, Katie, or Tom? Okay. What about Eric and Megan? What's one insight?
I'd say that my big takeaway is just the categorization of the questions, because usually, I've got a bunch of questions and I kind of just go randomly and not quite sure where I'm trying to get with it, just trying to draw information. And so categorizing it and trying to figure out where they're at and where they want to go is a good way of looking at the questions and how and when I use them.
Yeah, where they're at, where they want to go. And then we can work on like, what's the disconnect? So this is where you want to be. This is why you're not there now. Like, what's in your way? And become kind of like a detective. It's kind of fun to see what's going on with them. Right? Thanks, Eric. All right, how about Denise and Natasha? What's one insight?
I think that one of the things we talked about is that we would be very, very fortunate sometimes if we could hit every single insight in one visit, but that this could potentially be a couple visits where we uncover the as is, and then we have a chance the next time to talk about the should be and the barriers and the payout, and that it may not all happen up front and at once at our very first visit with them.
Absolutely. And this ties back to an earlier comment of like, maybe sometimes we don't have time, right? So if we can be intentional about, for this visit, maybe I can focus on where they are right now. And the next time as I continue to build that relationship, I can focus on where they want to be. Yeah, good insight. Let's hear from Cassidy or John.
Thinking if Cassidy was going to go. Yeah, we just kind of talked about something similar, really. Depending on the relationship that you have with each clinic, you might be able to jump into those deeper questions, in the barriers and payout earlier than you would if you didn't have that relationship with them, or if it's a newer clinic. So.
It's also something I think that's super important is that as we learn to categorize and become more organized and directional, sometimes directions change. So you have to be super fluid and pivot in this job, because someone can leave and you'd have to start all over, or some kind of change can happen. They could go corporate, or the whole staff can turn over, and you have to be completely fluid with understanding where you are and how to get somewhere different, which I think is super hard sometimes, because I don't remember who said it, maybe Eric, but like you do just ask questions. I've been very guilty of just asking a lot of questions to gather information, but maybe my information wasn't directional the way it needed to be to get me to gain more insight that was useful in a clinic and get me to grow with them.
Yeah. Nice. And like when somebody leaves, then you're like, okay, now great. I gotta ask all those questions all over again with this new person, right? Yeah. All right, let's hear from one more group, then we'll go to break. Ashley and Cassie, what would you add?
I was going to say being more deliberate in the change in the payout questions. I feel like the as is and should be are a little bit easier to come by. Those are just kind of some of the probing you're asking those things. But to be more direct and actually ask those questions that fall in that change in payout category and make sure you're asking the ones that sometimes we kind of shy away with or a little bit more uncomfortable, which is going to move the needle more for us. I know I definitely need to be more deliberate and making sure to not shy away from those.
You mentioned the word direct, right? And you say with so much assertiveness, right? When we're, and this is different than being directive. Being direct is like, hey, I want to know, and that confidence makes them want to engage with you more because they're like, wow, like, yeah, like Cassie is she wants to partner with us and she wants to know what's going on, right? So that you being direct can be very attractive when working with a client. Thank you. Another way for us to visualize this questioning model is when we think of like a bridge. And they are as is, and they're trying to cross that bridge to go to the should be. And there's a gap right now, right? And us taking them on that journey to cross that bridge is where we put our solution in there. Is how can I get you to cross this bridge from where you currently are to where you should be? And I will be a partner with you as we cross that bridge together. And how I can help by offering my solution, my service, the value that I bring, so we can be successful in implementing this change for you. So this is another way, a more visual way for us to think about that questioning model. Right now, I think we've earned a break. So let's do a lunch break. Let's do a longer break this time. Let's do 15 minutes. So let's come back at 11:32. 15 minutes lunch break. And thanks, Haley. And the second half of a session started with this phrase where we often hear people say, oh, there's no such thing as stupid question. When it comes to sales, there are stupid questions that that happens. When I say that, what comes to mind? What crossed your mind when I say that? Well, in sales, there are stupid questions. What comes to mind when we say that? Come off mute. Who has a thought? What do I mean by that? In sales, at times there are stupid questions. Let's see here. Sandra, what do you think? There are such thing as stupid questions in sales. What do you think I mean by that?
I mean, what comes to my mind is asking a question that you're not, isn't gonna have a favorable response for you, and you're not gonna be able to pivot from. That's what comes to mind. Something that, you don't have a solution for, or you don't have, you're not prepared enough to respond to.
Okay. And that ties back to one of the reasons why we don't ask questions earlier. It's like, hey, I'm worried that if I ask these questions and they say something that I don't have a solution for, right? Thank you. That is Eric. I see you're off mute.
Yeah, I was just going to add that, maybe a stupid question could be a question or a question where you should already know the answer to, like doing your due diligence as a sales rep. You should know some things going into the call. So asking questions that you should already know.
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely. In today's world and age, we have this at the tip of our fingertip, right? There's things that we can find out about the company on Google, on LinkedIn. So asking those questions, quote unquote, reduces our credibility because they're like, did you even look me up before you meet with me? Right? That's gonna make them say, well, that's a stupid question. It's like it's on Google. If you just Google me for 5 minutes, you would find out. That's what we're talking about. Carla, what would you add?
Well, I would say asking too specific of a question of a client you don't know well yet. So let's say you ask something like, hey, do you see a lot of dehydrated cats? And you don't realize that 95% of their practice happens to be dogs or exotics, right? So then you show you don't know anything about them instead of more of a general question, like if you don't know this, do you see a lot of cats and dogs or whatever it is?
So that's another insight. It's like keeping it general at first, and as you go deeper, as you learn more about them, right? Okay, thank you. When it comes to us maintaining and coming across as credible, and it ties to this idea of asking relevant questions that we have prepared, there's 3 levels of questions that shows our preparation. There's one where it's about basic, easily found information. Second one is one that shows you your research. You dig a little bit deeper. Maybe you found something in an article about them, or something in the news that's like tied to their world. And advanced, it has to do with more of those strategic questions that relates to more specifically to what they're struggling, their point of view, what else that we couldn't find off of the internet. So 3 level: basic, intermediate, and advanced questions. When we look at these levels of questions, which level is better? What do you think?
Hey, I wouldn't say which one is better. I think it would just determine what process or where you're at in the sales process, right? If you're at the beginning of the sales process, let me turn my camera on. Sorry, that was rude. If you're at the beginning if you're at the beginning of the sales process, getting to learn the clinic, you might have some basic questions that you need to ask, just get some information. But as you advance through learning about the clinic before you even get to the sale, then you start getting to more into the intermediate and advanced questions. So I don't think one's better than the other, but I think it depends on what step and what level you're at in the process.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to ask a leading question, and I was like, how can I rephrase that from being leading to like just asking more general, which one is better, instead of asking, is advanced better than basic? Thank you, Marcus. When it comes to these type of questions, there are certain questions, and it ties to the quote unquote stupid question. There's questions that we want to avoid, such as leading questions, right? One could be like, oh, you do want the best for your clients, don't you? That's a leading question. We're trying to get them to say yes in a ways that feels manipulative. Lazy question is this ties back to the stupid question, is something we could have found out on our own. Like, how long have you been in business? Like, if you Google me, you would have known how long I've been in business. You just didn't want to do your research. Self-serving questions could be making it more about us instead of about them. Could be, what other sales reps are you talking to? Now, in a way, I can see how that could just giving us more idea. How it could also be just, for more about us instead of more about them. And then a trick question is, what do you think a trick question is? Who has an idea? What do you think a trick question is? You come off me or type in the chat. What's a trick question? A trick question could be one that makes it that's trying to put people in a trap. Like if I said, John, and this is hypothetical question. If I say, John, you know, when was the last time you beat your wife? John's like, what are you talking about? Right? Because like that makes it hard for him to respond. Because first of all, I'm like, I don't beat my wife, or I don't hit other people, right? But the way I ask the questions cause him to respond in a way that makes him lose face, or that's not a win-win situation. So that's an example of a trick question. Or did you realize that X was an unhealthy option? It makes the person respond in a way that makes them feel defensive. Hostile or aggressive questions could be, who's the one who's really making the decisions here? Like, it implies the person you're talking to is not the person making the decisions. It comes across as aggressive, or why did you stay with them for so long? Typically, the why questions can trigger defensiveness. So these are different types of questions that we want to avoid. So let's see if we can have some fun with this. Haley's going to drop us into a quick breakout, like a few minutes. Haley, just do 3 minutes, and you can choose which category to work on and come up with a question for that category. Maybe you want to choose hostile or aggressive question, and then come up with the questions that maybe you've heard other sales rep asked, that you're like, no, we shouldn't be asking them that because that sounds too aggressive. So you can choose which category you want and then come up with a question for that category. See if we can make this relevant to our world so that we be more aware to avoid them next time. Who has a question? Okay. Haley, how are the breakouts looking?
We are ready to go.
All right, let's do it. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Let's see what kind of questions to avoid that we came up with. Let's hear from, well, Marcus was speaking. I guess we can hear from their group, because I would love to hear from their group. Carla, Katie, Kim, Marcus, what category did you work on? What questions did you come up with?
We did lazy questions.
Okay.
And unfortunately, we came up with a lot of them. So I'm just going to do like 2. Okay. I don't want to.
Okay.
So the first one we came up with, is your clinic been busy? I mean, we all know it is. Like, it's kind of those questions that you ask that you already know the answer to. You know, it's really not in depth. The next question we came up with is, I think it was, do you feel nutrition's important for your clients or for the animals? Like, you know, yes, we do. You know,
Yeah.
we're not in the business of killing animals. We're in the business of taking care of them, you know? So these are just lazy questions that we ask. And I think we all probably get caught up in those situations, trying to move the needle and trying to move the conversation. Maybe it's not going the way you think it is. You just kind of throw out a lazy question.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last one you asked also sounds manipulative. Like, of course, the answer is yes.
Of course we do. Right? Yeah.
Thank you, Marcus. All right, let's hear from Cassidy, John, Sandra, and Stephanie. Which category did you work on?
So we jumped, we're discussing all of them, but the one that we jumped to was a hostile or aggressive question. And it really depends on really your tone and how you ask it at what point in the conversation. Because I asked a question and then Cassidy asked a question. She sounded so nice. But it's kind of like, it just depends on kind of how you deliver it. But it's a question that you could ask is like, for example, like one of our supplements is very known Fortiflora. Like maybe if you ask it with a sense of entitlement, like, why aren't you using our Fortiflora? That could be like, a hostile question could be just interpreted as a little just entitled, depending how you ask it, just because it's like, why aren't you using our Fortiflora? It could be just interpreted incorrectly. So I thought that was just a weird way to ask a question. And then also, but at the same time, it also depends on your delivery of your question itself.
Yes. So let's hear how to ask that question properly from Cassidy.
She just said it with a sweet tone. That's all she did.
Yeah, I think we were talking about in another instance of why aren't you using Purina? And it was like, well, why aren't you using Purina? I mean, it was just really tone.
Yes. And thank you. Yeah, if we're being nice, we can get away with a lot of things.
Right. Sugar to honey.
Shake it up. And if we find that why triggers defensiveness, we can switch to how come. It still serves the same purpose. Like, how come you haven't used Flora for that yet? Like, but we can switch, we can change a few words to still ask the same question, but it doesn't come as defensive or aggressive or hostile. Let's hear from Cassie, Julie, and Megan. What did you all come up with?
On the same thing, we talked about hostile or aggressive questions, and we also talked about lazy questions. And I think we both agreed that it does have to do with tone, and then how you structure the question. I think I was talking about OM and, if you're overweight dogs and things and the lifespan, and rephrasing it in not that it would take away the lifespan of the dog, but it would actually, instead, asking the question of how much it would enhance the life. So just, kind of tweaking it. And then lazy questions would be, again, maybe digging for, negative things about other reps, maybe in the questions of, or that could be also like trick questions, what do you not like about your Hills rep or your experience with Hills? And, instead of being positive, I think we kind of talked a little bit.
Okay, and it kind of ties to that self-serving, like it's more
for
you, it's more about you to make you good. In a negative way, right? Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. All right, so those are questions just to be more aware of, to avoid asking, or how can you change it in a way to make it less aggressive or hostile. There's one type of questions that we do want to ask more, and it's called power question. And the power question is a question that's not easily answered right away. Like, how many people on your team? Like, that's not a power question, because you can just easily answer. Like, I have 5 people on my team, I have 10 people on my team. A power question is a thought-provoking question. It makes somebody stop and say, let me think about that for a second. It makes them think. It causes them to ponder, makes them consider. It also allows us to connect with them on a deeper level, because we are providing, going back to that questioning model, like we are giving them more clarity on where they are and where they want to be, and it allows them to make that reflection on their own, which increase also the liking principle, right? When we are the one giving them that time, that space to think, they like us more. So that's what I mean by a power question. We know that we have asked a power questions when the client do these things. When they pause and think, I'm like, when it says, that's a good question. That's a good question. Like you get me thinking. That's a power question. Or it says, I've never thought of that before. And now that you asked about it, so that helps them slow down and be more thoughtful about their answers. That's when we know that we have hit a power question. And the power question, again, is like make them reflect on a deeper level, and it enhances our connection with them. For instance, let's see if we can decipher between powerful and powerless questions with this list. It says, let's type A for powerful or B for powerless in the chat. Is this powerful or is this a powerless question? What type of clients do you serve? We're not saying whether it's stupid or not. We're saying, is it a powerful or a powerless question? Okay. Yep. It doesn't cost them to think on a deeper level. That's what we're getting at, right? Now, if they really take some time to think about what type of clients they serve, maybe it's powerful for them at this point because they haven't thought about it, right? A good clinic should know what clients they serve. How will the service affect your ability to deliver value to your clients? How will switching over, or how do you see Vet Direct be of service to your client? Because just right when I read the question, it's going to cause them to imagine to think deeper, right? When clients talk about their experience with you, what do you want them to say? Powerful or powerless? So I see some lips moving too, right? Thank you, Natasha and Carla. How about, are there any additional dietary needs? Again, we're not saying whether it's a bad question or a stupid question. We're just thinking, is this question causing them to think deeper? That's what we mean by powerful. Just because it's a powerless question doesn't mean it's a terrible question. Fast forward a year and imagine things have gone perfectly. Looking back, well, what would make you the happiest? Or what would make you say, like, this was a great switch? Just out of curiosity, question number 5. When we think about the questioning model, what type of question is that? As is, should be, barrier, change, payout. What kind of question is that? Tying it back to the questioning model. Yeah, what are the outcomes you're looking for? It could also be the should be, right? Looking back a year from now, things have gone perfectly. What should it be like? Right? What would you do differently next time? Is it powerful or powerless? A for powerful, B for powerless. It's kind of like I have a friend, and he was like talking to his sister, and she told him something that she did that she regretted, and he's like, so what did we learn from this? It's kind of like that. It's like it makes her stop and think and reflect. So what would you do differently next time? Okay, how about this last one? What partners do you currently use? And again, we're not saying powerless is bad. We're just saying it's not powerful because it doesn't trigger that deeper level of thinking. What's your take on power question? This concept of a power question. What's your take? You can come off mute.
Like I said in the chat, I think it just a lot of these questions are kind of like open-ended. They really make you think. It kind of reminds me of an interview in a way, like not just yes or no's, you know, like give me examples of, you know. So
Okay, yeah, like an interview. I mean, essentially, the sales conversation is we're interviewing to see if this is a good fit or not, right? Yeah, as much as they're interviewing us, we're also interviewing them. Who else? What's your take on power questions? Okay, I think you all got it. You get the point. So let's see if you can come up with your own power questions. So, Haley, how many people do we have per group before?
So we had groups of 3 or 4.
Okay, you can keep the same group, Haley. And did we do, how many minutes do you have from there?
We had the last breakout had 4 minutes.
Okay, let's keep the same. Just keep everything the same, Haley. We're gonna go back into the same breakout and see, can you come up with a power questions that you can ask your client next time as it relates to vet sales? Again, you can tailor some of these questions to make it fit your world, as long as you can think, hey, does this make them pause and think? Does it make them say, that's a good question? Does it make them say, I've never thought of that? In your group, just come up with at least one question that your group would say, that's a power question. It makes them think. And then we'll come back together. You just need one question, at least one question in your group. So there's 4 of you, 3 of you. So let's see if we can work together, come up with one power question per group. Who has a question? Okay, Haley, I think we're ready. All right, everyone, thumbs up if you were able to come up with at least one question. Thumbs down if you're like, Trini, I was so confused. I'm not sure what's going on. Okay. Okay, many thumbs up. That's good. Phew. All right, let's see here. Someone can just represent their group and annotate on the screen. So it doesn't matter who, just someone just volunteer themselves in the group from the breakout that you were just in, and go access your annotate tool, everyone, those people who are annotating, and write it on the screen. What question did your group come up with? So we have 6 rooms. So we see 6 people annotating. Okay. Ooh, what would it take to make Purina the easy choice? Okay. How has nutrition made a life-changing impact on a patient is your experience? Wow. Yeah, that's gonna make them stop and think, right? What do you like and not like about the other reps do? Okay, so Katie, would you come off mute real quick? Is it not allowing you to? That's weird. Oh, there you go.
I was still on text, sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good. So this tying back to what we said earlier about, asking questions that can make us look bad. And I'm not saying whether this necessarily does. With that in mind, how can we broaden this up? Not just focusing on the rep. Like, how would you modify this to broaden it out even more?
Just for experience wise, like what do you like and not like in an experience, I guess,
Sure.
So you're not mentioning another rep.
Sure, right. You can sense it in a conversation if you feel like, do I want to mention a rep? Sure, go ahead. If you want to keep it broad, the experienced previous vendors, right? So it's kind of like that dance that you do when you have that conversation with a client. Just keep something for us all to keep in mind. Are we missing 2? We have 6 groups. If you haven't got a chance to, please go ahead and do it now. Okay. If you type something and you don't see it on the screen, you probably have to click out. So I see a comment from Julie's group. So thank you, Julie. Stephanie hit the text tool.
Yeah, sorry, my fault.
Okay. You're good. Ryan's group went. Julie, Ashley's group went. Ryan, Katie. Okay. Oh, I see your car is covered with yellow dust. Is that showing in the amount of allergy patients you are seeing? Okay. What would you do with the extra time and profit you gain from utilizing VetDirect? Okay. Now, let's vote. Just out of curiosity, let's type a letter in the chat. Which questions from this screen would you say is the most powerful question? Obviously, it's context driven too. Just for the sake of, let's see what it looks like. Which one would you vote for, like the most powerful question you see on this screen? Okay. Ooh, B and C's. C and B. Ashley, you have to choose one.
I feel like it's unfair for me to choose my own, so that's why I gave 2. Because I thought it was tacky if I did C only.
Gotcha. Okay. C. Uh-huh. Haley, I don't know if you're tallying these up or not. I don't think I can. Just not good with counting in public. Too much pressure. See a lot of C's. So somebody come off mute. How come this question got your vote as like the most powerful question on here? How come? Somebody who voted for C.
It just shows outcome. It just makes them think about the outcome of what we're all trying to do. It's the emotion of being of making a real difference.
Yeah.
Not just money. Not just money. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's the emotional component, right? Life changing. So imagine that this question triggers that feeling in us. Imagine what feeling it triggers in the client, in the vet. Like they answer that question. Our conversation is going to stay top of mind for them. It's like, wow, I just had this really great conversation with, this person from Nestle Purina. It stays on their mind. So the power of question, power of us asking that insightful question, that powerful question, right? How about B? For those of us who voted B, how come? See, Rachel voted B, Kim voted B, Brittany voted B, Sandra voted B. How come? Carla voted B.
I think that it's a really direct question, and it will make them pause and think about what it really would take. And then that gives us such valuable information.
Yeah. Yeah. goes back to that directness that Cassie was talking about earlier, right? There's something attractive about it. We're not doing it in a pushy way. We're not being directive, we're being direct. Of like, hey, what would make it an easy choice? I'm getting so much insight from that. Absolutely.
I did like also about this question that it's very direct, because if, you know, sometimes it's going to be a no. Sometimes they're just not interested. And this kind of, I think, you know, stops you in your tracks, and they're in their tracks where, like, if it's not going to be Purina, you don't have to continue, you know, you don't have to continue. It's just a direct answer right there. So I really liked it for that reason too.
Okay. So it doesn't waste time, is what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, it helps give you a clear answer, clear direction. Something that Cassidy was talking about. Like, sometimes I don't know which direction I'm leading my questions. This can help us get a clearer direction. Who here have asked any of these questions before? Who here have actually used these questions with a client before?
I have.
Okay, Tom,
Yeah,
which one?
I have.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Mine was
Tom,
the one
you
about
go first. Which
mine
one
was
did you-
about the pollen on the car.
Okay.
I used it quite recently and very effectively.
What was the answer?
A moment, a pause of thought, and all of a sudden a in-depth conversation about allergy, which we conveniently had a drive finishing month drive on.
Nice. Thank you. I heard another voice. I apologize. I didn't catch who it was. Who was the other person?
It was me. I was just gonna say I have done number C, like when has nutrition made a life-changing impact on a patient in your experience?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of using like what another company is doing to like start the conversation. So recently Zoetis came out with Librela, and I've had a really great experience with it. And it's been promoted in all of my clinics, and there's QR codes. And so I've asked the question like, oh, you guys seeing a lot of great results from Librela. And then I kind of start with like talking about someone else's product, but then bring it into like, you know, when it comes to diets, like, have you guys had that same impact with nutrition? And then it sparks this conversation, and we've gotten the conversations, whether it be, you know, neurocare, which is something that's always at the forefront of my mind, which is what I feed my dog, but then also like going into like diabetic cats and managing them with our food and just success stories and things like that. And so, yeah, I'm definitely using, you know, something else that's really like hot in the industry to then, you know, bring it into our conversation in regards to nutrition and food as medicine.
Yeah, absolutely. It shows credibility because you know what works, what doesn't. It also shows that you stay up to date in what's going on with the industry, right? And you're bringing it to this conversation with the client. Yeah, thank you. See if you can use one of these power questions next time when you're in a conversation with a vet, with a practice manager, and see what's the result. Potentially you could get positive results like Ashley and Tom have been getting. A big part of our sales conversations involves listening. This is something that Kim mentioned earlier. When it comes to listening, there are two rules that we can think of. One is the 43-57 rule, and the other one is 80-20 rule. Real quick, before I explain them, which one have you heard? Which one are you aware of? Type in the chat. 43-57 rule or the 80-20 rule. Yeah, 80-20 rule is definitely a more popular one, the Pareto principle, right? Yep. So 43-57 rule is years ago, they did a research, and this was published in a book called Mini Philosophy by Johnny Thompson. And they researched more than 25,000 salespeople. They're measuring their ratio of talking versus listening. And they say, hey, we found that this is the perfect ratio. 43% of talking time compared to 57% of listening time. And in fact, when they looked at it a little bit more in depth, and they found that salesperson who spoke 50% of the time or more have the lowest number of sales. With the 80-20 rules, we know this is the Pareto principle that say we should listen 80% of the time and talk 20% of the time. What is the bottom line here for us when it comes to us having sales conversation? What do these two statistics tell us? Chat or come off mute?
To be quiet more.
To be quiet more, right? Epictetus has this quote that he says, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Let's use it in that ratio. 2 ears, 1 mouth. Let's use it in that ratio. And so research supports what he said. We're not saying don't talk. There's points where you need to talk. We're saying talk less and do more listening. So when it comes to sales conversations, remember the 80-20 rule, remember the 43-57 rule. Not all listenings are the same. There's different listening levels. There's a connection level. We're listening to make a connection. Could be, oh, what you said about your clinic, what you're working on reminds me of another client. What you say remind me of another client. Or it could be, I have another client who was in your situation. What they did was. This could tie to credibility. Something we just talked about. Curiosity is we are listening because we are curious about them. We can ask follow-up questions. How come? We can say, tell me more about the situation. We're curious about the situation. What's an example of that? And then cues is we are listening to more than just what they say. We're listening for cues, for verbal and non-verbal cues. How are they reacting? What's the thought and emotions behind what they just said? So it could be something like, it sounds like. Marcus, you know, this is something that we talk about in our negotiation program. It sounds like this is the biggest pain point for you right now. Is that correct? Or you seem very passionate about this issue. We're sensing that cues, nonverbal, that emotion behind what they said. Or you're not, sounds like you're not happy about what's happening. Okay. Let's go back to number 1, connection. What's the purpose? Does making connection from what they said to what we heard, what purpose does it serve? Let's type it in the chat. What do you think? What purpose does the connection level of listening serve? Because each of these serve a different purpose. Relatability. What else? Understanding. Trust. What do you mean by trust, Brittany?
I don't know. I just feel like if you can build that connection and have more relatability to clients, that they can just kind of broaden that trust with you when you're more relatable to them.
And I think when we say relatable here, we're talking about, hey, this is what I hear from other clients as well. And this is how I'm seeing it in the industry, not just you. Right? So it shows also that our credibility, we know what's going on. All right, let's go to curiosity. What purpose does curiosity, this level of listening serve? When it says, how come? Tell me more. What's an example? What purpose does it serve? Make it personal. Yeah, personal to the clinic. What else? Letting them talk. Shows you're interested. Absolutely. How about cues? What purpose does that serve? This next level, cues. Yeah, make sure you're on the same level. ensuring you're listening correctly. Absolutely. Sometimes we're talking to a client, it's just like the conversation goes down a rabbit hole. We're like, let's reel it back. Let's make sure I understand what it is that you're telling me. Check for clarity. Absolutely. There's a few ways. Well, actually, let me ask you this. Which level of listening should you spend more time doing? Is it the connection? Is it the curiosity? Is it the cues? Which level should you focus on more for you personally? Okay. Okay. So there's a few ways that we can, a few techniques that we can utilize, communication techniques, to ensure that we do more of 3, 2, and 3. And the first one is asking confirming questions or confirming statements, just to make sure I'm understanding you correctly, just to confirm I'm hearing you correctly. I'm confirming. Clarifying is that, what do you mean by that? When we ask the clarifying questions, we are targeting that level, that higher level of listening, right? Not just the connection, but it's about the second level of curiosity. And then the follow-up questions can help us understand deeper. Tell me more. What do you mean? How so? Those are a few different ways that we can make sure that we hit number 3 and 4, 2 and 3. What else do you think would be helpful to help us specifically do number 3 more? Besides clarifying, confirming, and asking follow-up questions. What else do you think would be helpful? Not an easy question, huh? So keep thinking about it. We're gonna get the chance, we'll come back to this real quick. We're gonna get the chance to practice these things real quick by asking more confirming question, clarifying question, and follow-up question in this quick activity. And this quick activity helps us work on our listening skill. Earlier, we got an activity to practice asking question. Now we're gonna focus on listening. In a little bit, Haley is going to drop us in our last breakout today. And when we're in there, we're going to be with a partner, Haley. Let's do partners. And one person's going to do the role of asking questions. Like, tell me how you got into sales. One person's going to take the role of the person answering those. So when you're asking questions, see if you can confirm what you heard. See if you can clarify what they meant. And then ask follow-up questions to probe deeper. On the topic of height, how did you get into sales? And then we'll send you a message when it's time for you to switch. What I mean by that is when we say please switch, that means you switch roles. If you were answering questions, now you're the one asking question. And you can ask, hey, tell me how you got into sales. And then do the role of confirming, clarifying, and follow-up question. Right? If someone says, I love to help people and pets. And then you can ask a follow-up question. You can say, how so? Like, why is that? Or you can ask clarifying questions. So you can have a conversation about why somebody got into sales using these types of questions. Who has a question? Okay. Let's do 8 minutes. So you have 4 minutes per person. So someone's going to be asking, someone's going to be answering. We're going to send you a message when you're in your breakout to tell you to switch when we're at the 4-minute mark. I'm going to share the screen. So you have the screen with you to help you have that conversation. Okay, Haley, whenever you're ready. All right. Oh, waiting, getting everyone to come back. All right, welcome back, everyone. Let's get an idea in the chat. Which one was easiest for you to do? If you were the one person asking question, which of these three was easiest for you to do? Was it the confirming? Was it the clarifying? Was it the follow-up question? Which one was easiest for you to do?
Maybe it was just my group was really easy to talk to, but it all felt like very natural. And we were all just kind of asking, we were kind of going through all the different types of questions without necessarily like focusing on, oh, this is going to be a clarifying question. It was super conversational.
Nice. I'm glad. Confirming. What else do you say to confirm, John, besides like, let me make sure I understand you correctly. Like, what do you say to confirm?
I don't think I said much different. She was talking about how she got into sales, and I was just asked her, am I hearing you correctly? She was talking about her family. Just, tell me more about, how your family influenced you. So that's just kind of how the conversation went.
Okay. For Megan, it's all three felt natural. Okay, I'm glad. There's another trick for us to think about when it comes to listening is this shot clock analogy. Because we're like, okay, so when should I shut up? Right? You're telling me this 80-20 rule, this 43-57 rule. When should I shut up? And this shot clock analogy might resonate with you if you happen to play basketball. Type yes if you play basketball. Any basketball players in here? Okay. Even if we don't play basketball, we're familiar with the sports of basketball. Okay, so Brittany does plays basketball. And the shot clock analogy refers to this timing device that you see there on the screen with displays the countdown of the time within which like the team must attempt to make the shot. If they don't, they have to pass it back. So when we're talking to clients, just imagine that there's a shot clock above our head and just be aware of like, am I holding on the ball right now, or should I pass the ball back to the client so that we don't fall into the trap of talking too much and not listening enough. So that if you like sports, if you like basketball, that's an analogy for us to keep in mind to make sure, hey, am I talking or am I listening right now? Am I interrupting? Am I doing a good job of clarifying, following up with questions, and confirming? So we've done a good job of asking questions, getting good enough detail. How do we wrap all of that up in a conversation? And that's where a summary comes into play. A summary is just pretty much a statement that says, based on what you've told me, this is the solution that we have, I believe, would help this situation. This is what you stated. This is the primary interest. This is the main interest. There's also an individual motive, like for you personally. So we're summarizing the things that we heard them say. Also, the thing that they said that they didn't really verbalize, but we felt that they were trying to communicate with us. It ties to the individual motive through our listening skill. For instance, when I says, based on what you told me about your clinic's challenges and goals, I believe that our products can help can perfectly align with what you need, right? I understand your primary interest is whatever it is you fill in the blank. Our products are engineered not only to meet, but exceed those expectations. And then finally, you mentioned that the situation is impacting you personally because of X, Y, and Z. So based on what you told me, this is your primary interest. So how products fit into that. And then for you personally, this is impacting you because yada, 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 yada. And then we end with, did I understand you correctly? This summary allows us to make sure, again, that we align with what they were telling us and also makes them feel heard. When we think about the summary statements, who have used something similar? Like wrapping it up based on what you told me. Okay, so Julie, what's your version?
Well, I mean, I was always taught you have to ask for the right to close conversation or ask for the right to close. And part of that is doing something very similar, as kind of giving a recap of what we talked about, what was, where they are in the process, and do I have the right to close? And then you close. So there's always that there's always the statement before the close. That's how I always learned.
Gotcha. Yeah. Before you close, ask for that permission. Nice. I saw somebody else's hand. Who was that? Was that you, John? Okay. Summary statement. See if we can do something similar to what Julie said. And this is going to be in your handout. It's a way for us to wrap it up. Based on what you told me, this is what you're looking for. This is our solution. And for you personally, here's your personal why. Did I understand you correctly? It instills confidence and confirms it. Let's summarize here before we close out for the sessions. How would you describe today? Let's write it in the chat. How would you describe today? Besides long, how would you describe today? Challenging. Challenging in what way, Cassie?
Sorry, my screen has changed a couple times and it disappeared. Anyway, off me. Challenging in the way thinking about how you have the conversations. Again, talking about doing those power questions, actually doing it where you can. It's not self-serving. You are finding more information and opening up opportunities, but also not being too pointed and trying to be leading with some of them. And I feel like we probably all, I know I definitely do, fall into some of those traps at times, trying to get them to essentially say the right things to fit my agenda to give me the open when that is not always the correct approach. So trying to kind of retrain myself to do it differently. I mean, and get uncomfortable is challenging.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that requires us to continue to practice and be more intentional, right? When we're learning something new, it's going to be uncomfortable, like you say. And it sounds like it's challenging in a good way. Okay. What did you learn today that helps you be more successful? Let's type that in the chat, everyone. What did you learn today that helps make you more successful? Even 1% more successful. What helped you be 1% more successful today? Mm. Quality. Oh, Carla likes the 43-57 rule. Okay. Yeah, the economy says only the prepared deserves to be confident. Okay. Um, Cassie got us started thinking about this idea of like it's challenging. This is not easy. So what other challenges do you anticipate you would confront when we try to do more of this? When we try to ask more questions, listen more, asking power questions. What would be a challenge that you might run into? Could feel overwhelming at times. What would be a challenge for you? Yeah, finding that time. The more we do it, the easier it comes, and the more natural it's going to become for us, right? When we know, like, okay, so this questioning model, and there's different types of questions, so I shouldn't just stick with as is. Maybe I throw in a should be question, or maybe I throw in a change barrier question. Maybe I feel like this person, I haven't got to their personal motive yet. Let me ask a payout question, like, what's in it for you? Right? So being uncomfortable with trying new things, absolutely. Preparation, yeah. Be thinking about like how might you overcome that. In an effort to help all of us practice these things and overcome these challenges, we're throwing down a challenge to all of us. I'll come back to this in a little bit. And the challenge is, and we'll send this out, Haley's going to send this out in a document. It's called the client customer interview. We'll send this out to you. You have it in a document. This font might be a little bit small on your screen right now. You'll have the document. So pretty much, this is an opportunity for us to ask a current client. That's one way for us to practice asking these questions more, is to practice with the current client. And we can do a quick interview with them. We can, and this, we're throwing out a challenge to all of us here, is we can call someone up and say, hey, good morning, good afternoon. This is Tree from Nestle Farina. I just want to call up to hear about your experience working with us. You know, I just want to learn how we can continue to provide value to you. Is this an okay time to talk? And then we can ask them, you know, what has your experience like working with Nestle Farina? What kind of impacts, results have you seen? And you can ask additional follow-up questions to understand their experience with Nestle Farina. And we can ask, hey, how can we improve? And what would you recommend we do to continue to further this partnership? All of that is on this customer interview guide sheet for you that we're going to be sending out in the email. So I'll challenge you, everyone, is see if you can find a client that you can do this with, to see the value that you bring to your client, and that's something you can transfer to your prospect. Thumbs up if that makes sense. Okay, so that's a challenge to all of you. We're gonna close out with this quote. Here's a quick reminder: keep working on your enhanced relationship, do the customer interview, right? Plan out your questions, use the questioning model, leverage some power questions. And you know, we've been talking about success stories. That's something we'll lean into in the next session. Closing out, if you don't ask the right questions, you don't get the right answers. And when we think about those questions that we asked earlier, that triggers that emotional connection, right? Those power questions, that's going to turn the conversation, help us close the sale. So go out there, everyone, this week and see if you can ask more questions so you can be more successful and close more deals. Have a wonderful rest of your week, everyone.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
you too.
Thank you.
Bye, Tree.
Bye.